I'm thinking of purchasing a vehicle, but I've heard this leasing word and I'm not really educated on it, so I'd like to know a little bit more about it, see if it's right for me.
Now, we get that question a lot, okay? People are going, you know what, I want to buy a car, I've heard about this leasing, I see it all over the news, but what's the deal about it, right? So I'll tell you this, leasing's not for everybody. Leasing is for consumers that own their cars and trade out about every 2 to 4 years. If you're a consumer and you keep your car for 7, 10, 6, 15 years, leasing's not right for you. You drive 100,000 miles a year, leasing's probably not right for you. But like most Americans, ultimately you get a new car every 2 to 4 years. And if that's you, you should consider leasing it, at least take a look at it to see the benefits to you.
I've always owned my car, so that leasing word, how would that work? Would I still own the vehicle? Would it be mine?
Hey, I understand. We get this question all the time. I want to own my car. Well, in traditional financing, if you finance your vehicle until that car is paid off, you don't own the car. Just like your house, right? Until you pay off your house, the bank is still on the note. The same is true for financing, and the same is true for leasing. Because ultimately, in the event that you only pay off your car is when you truly own the vehicle. Now again, you pay off your car, you write a check, and you keep that car for 7, 10 years, or you drive a ton, leasing's not right for you. But in the event that you like to get a new car every 2 to 4 years, leasing is a strong option for you.
One of the things I've heard is this cheaper payment with a lease. How do I get a cheaper payment being in a lease versus a buy?
Well, the reason leasing is cheaper than traditional financing is what they call residual values. Ultimately, how a lease works is the manufacturer bases what that car is going to be worth, and they think it's going to be worth in 3 years with X amount of miles. That's what's called a residual. So for example, one residual might be 58%, it could be 30%, it could be 80%. But what they're saying is that car is going to be worth 58%, 80% of the original car's value right now. So ultimately what you're doing is paying off that depreciation. So if it's 58% residual, you'll be paying off that 42% depreciation. Because at that time, at 3 years down the road, they're banking on that car's going to be worth 58%. They then can go sell it back in the market and sell it as a used car. So ultimately, the reason it's cheaper is you're not paying for the life of the car, you're paying for the ownership of the car for that period of time. As most Americans do, they have a budget for a payment, whatever that is. Some people it's $100, $200, sometimes it's $1,000. Whatever the case is, leasing might be right for you. And the reason it's cheaper is you're only paying for the portion you use, not for the entire car. That makes sense?
What if in 2 years I decide that I want to get a new vehicle? How does that work being in a lease?
It's a great question. What if I want to get out of the car in a few years before the lease is up? Well, leasing is a commitment. You have a 3-year, 39-month, 24-month, whatever the case is, it is a commitment. Is it possible for you to get out of that? Yes, but most likely you'll be what's called upside down, meaning you're going to owe more than what the car is worth. Remember, you're only paying for what? The use of that car. You're not paying any principal of the car off. So, in the event you do want to get out of it, it is possible, but it's not the best use of your money, and ultimately it will cost you some money, but it is possible to get out of your lease. Okay?
I know this lease, we have a mileage term, and I like to drive my car. So if I was to go over a lease mileage, how does that work?
I completely agree. I lease a car, I want to drive my car and I have to worry about the miles. Okay, in the event, before you sign up for your lease, you need to figure out what the historical driving habits you had the past 1, 2, 3 years. Also consider, will you be changing jobs? Is your commute going to change? Are you going to be driving more? Whatever the case may be is. But you have to think about that and set up your lease for that. Most leases are set up between 12 and 15,000 miles a year. But let's say you want to drive 18,000 miles a year. Here at Honda, in the event the car is $30,000 or less, you can buy those miles. So ultimately what you do is you pay 10 cents a mile for those miles. Okay, if it's $30,000 or more, it's 15 cents a mile. Well, Mark, I don't like paying that. Hey, I understand. Think about this. If you bought your car a traditional sense, whether it's financing or wrote a check for it, okay, and you go to trade that car out here in 2 to 3 years, that car is going to be worth less. Why? It's got more miles on it. So ultimately, you're just paying for the depreciation for the miles that are on the car. Okay, but what if I go over on my miles, right? That's a consideration a lot of folks have. In the event you do go over your 15, 18,000 miles or whatever you set up on your original lease contract, all you do is you have to pay for those miles. Here at Honda, it's 20 cents a mile for a car that's over $30,000. So if you go over 10,000 miles, it's $2,000, okay? If it's over a $30,000 car. In the event it's under 30,000, it's just 15 cents a mile. Again, if you had a traditional finance or you paid cash, that car would be worth less at the time you traded in, and so therefore they're just betting on and accounting for those miles on the vehicle.
What if I'm at the grocery store and a cart comes and hits my vehicle and there's damage to it? Then what do you do?
Hey, I understand. We have to worry about those rogue shopping carts. We've got to worry about baseballs flying over fences with our kids. We've got to worry about stains and rips and all that. I understand that. Well, Honda right now does have a damage waiver. So in the event that something does happen, it scratches on the side, you got a rip, you got something like that, Honda does a $500 damage waiver. So in the event that rogue shopping cart hits you and the damage is less than $500, you don't have to worry about it. In the event it's above the $500, you'll pay the difference of that. But most folks, that $500 waiver would cover any minimal damage to the car.
Once my lease term is up, then what? Do I keep it? Do I turn it in? That's kind of the confusion I have a little bit.
Okay, great question. Ultimately, once the lease is up, you have three options for you. One, you can buy the car outright. If this is your favorite car ever, and man alive, I want to keep it and drive it till the wheels fall off, that is a perfectly good option. All you'll need to do is finance or pay off the rest of the remaining balance. Many times it's not to your benefit, because remember, you didn't pay much principal of the car, you just paid off the depreciation, but that is an option for you. Number two is, let's say the residual was 58%, right? And that's what you thought it was going to be. Well, somehow it comes in and it's worth more than what your residual value is, you can trade it in. It doesn't happen too often, but it does happen every now and then, and you can trade that in if it's to your benefit. Most folks, though, they just turn that in. Honda, what you'll do, if you move, you go out of state, whatever the case is, you go to any Honda dealership and you're going to turn in that car. At that point, you'll sign some paperwork, do whatever Honda says. They're going to have someone walk around and make sure that, hey, is the $500 less damage done to it? Are you in your miles? So on and so forth. You sign some paperwork and you walk away. At that point, you can buy a new Honda, anything else that you want. Whatever you want, the car, you are done with that term. I hope this helps, and please let me know if you have any more questions.